Good afternoon. Let us pray. To the beginning and the ending, to the source of all knowing, we gather this day as those who seek, embrace, and follow what is true. In doing so, we place ourselves in that great chain of being that reaches back to the first one who looked at the stars and the moon, observed the fish darting in the water, watched the deer leap in brush and bracken, and wondered. In so doing, we place ourselves in that great chain of being that stretches forward to the community that is not yet real, where there is always enough, where wisdom and justice reign, where peace is a way of life for all people. This Founders Day, we at Wake Forest gather to remember those who led the way for us, making Wake Forest ever more like the humanity we serve, to honor the founding that continues to unfold in us and through us today. We offer thanks for this special place of learning, inquiry, creativity, and freedom, and for all those, including those we honor this day, who have made it so. And so we enter this time now with intention, with wonder, with gratitude, knowing that we are the connection between the Wake Forest that was and the Wake Forest that is yet to be. May it be so. Amen.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our annual Wake Forest Founders Day ceremony. This year, we come together as a community to celebrate the founding of Wake Forest College in February of 1834. This year, 2025, marks 191 years of Wake Forest. Now, many universities celebrate the anniversaries of their founding, but here at Wake Forest, we think about founders and our founding in a broad and expansive way. Often, the notion of founders makes us think only of firsts. In our case, that might mean the leaders who first established a small manual labor institute in the North Carolina farming community of Wake Forest, which has now grown into this nationally recognized research university. Or the class of 1839, those very first graduates of Wake Forest College, whom the class of 2025 will join as alumni in just a few short months from now. And yes, we always seek to reflect on our past, as a friend said to me, for what was good, what was lasting, and what has now changed, focusing intently on expanding the narrative of our history. But Founders Day at Wake Forest is also something more. We recognize that who we are in 2025 is the result of many foundings and many founders. Indeed, each person who has been a part of this great university for the past 191 years has contributed to its continuous founding. Our founders are all our students, faculty, staff, every person who has lived, worked, or studied at Wake Forest. So today, we honor and remember nearly 2 centuries of Demon Deacons. We celebrate each person who's made new discoveries, uncovered new knowledge, and expanded our reach and ability to serve humanity as our motto calls us to do. Every achievement, every challenge, every innovation, every pivot since 1834, every memory we know, and those we have yet to acquire, contribute to our active, ongoing founding, and do all those actions to come in the future. Today, we're also reminded of our opportunity, our responsibility to nurture, grow, and continue to contribute to this community however we can. To continue that work of founding Wake Forest. Together, we embody what Wake Forest is today and establish what Wake Forest will be for our future. And if all of us are founders of Wake Forest, as I strongly believe, then all of us have a voice that matters here. Because of these many invaluable voices, at Wake Forest, our founding is highly collaborative. Together, we bring to the table new ideas, distinct expertise, diverse different perspectives, and real life experiences. And while our many perspectives and how we express them may push and pull against one another, may be shaped by one another, I truly believe that the rich tapestry of voices is foundational to our community. Not only that, I also believe that the push and pull, the shaping forces of respectful conversation, debate, even disagreement, which happen within the supportive, relational environment of Wake Forest, are precisely what makes this community uniquely capable of continually improving and inventing itself. As founders of this academic community, we are each called to engage in scholarship, research, creativity, discovery, and deep discernment on our own and with one another. As stewards of this academic community, we safeguard those pursuits by our shared commitment to academic freedom and free expression. Academic freedom and free expression are, in and of themselves, concepts that generate honest and healthy discussion. Here at Wake Forest, as I've seen and heard from so many of you in our work together, the root of the conversation on those ideals really does come down to our shared respect and love of learning, truth, and the common good, where we see, acknowledge, and cherish the humanity in us all. I also believe that Wake Forest founders are always looking to the future, resolute in our hope for what the future can bring, of what more we can do for one another, for humanity. Founders show up today for the possibilities of tomorrow, even when today might seem challenging. In other words, founders are called to strive higher, strive for more, to be catalysts for good. Because we all want the very best for this place and for humanity. We all, in that way, will embrace the spirit of a founder and be aware of the needs of the present and the hopes for the future. We must show up for one another. We must listen to one another and then collaboratively support the Wake Forest that we want. the Wake Forest that we know society needs, a community of learners and leaders with integrity, founded on a shared calling for humanity. Today's program is going to bring to this podium reflections from different perspectives from some of the many voices of Wake Forest. As you will see and hear, the founding of Wake Forest continues in the leaders that we honor, in the questions that we ask, and in the challenges we set out to overcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I'd now like to invite Dr. Marina Kirchmar to the podium to introduce our senior oration.
Good afternoon. I'm Marina Kirchmar, Associate Dean of Faculty and Professor of Communication. As a professor of communication, I have long studied and understood the critical role that speaking plays in our world. Communication broadly, and public address more specifically, has also long been a critical component of a liberal arts education, and we see its value daily in the world around us. Ideally to be used as a tool for good, and sometimes the only recourse we have to fight for what is good and true, however we define those things. Today, all of you are about to become part of a more than 190-year-old Wake Forest tradition of senior orations. Think about that for a minute. Wake Forest students have been giving orations for more than 9 generations. In 1834, Wake Forest's first year, the school enrolled just 16 students, all young men. They organized a debate society that first year, and then the next year they organized another one so that they could compete with each other. To this day, we take debate very seriously at Wake Forest. In fact, so important was public speaking as part of Wake Forest's education that for almost 50 years, all seniors were required to give a public speech in front of the entire school in order to graduate. In fact, Mr. Wake Forest, Dr. Ed Wilson, famously said, long before we played football, edited publications, acted, or sang, in fact, almost before we studied, we at Wake Forest talked. We have long since turned this venerable rite of passage into a voluntary one. This year, 29 essays were submitted by students who were nominated by college, faculty, and staff. A panel of faculty read all the essays and selected the top 10, and these were presented last week before a public audience of students, faculty, staff, parents, and friends in Pew Auditorium. Having read and witnessed all of them myself, I want to say that they were all incredible. Some I went back to read again simply to have the pleasure of doing so. They were amazing and moving and pointed to the most beautiful aspect of education, indeed of life, the possibility of transformation, the experience of growth. For nearly 2 centuries, the Wake Forest community has had the opportunity to listen and learn from our talented senior orators, and today you will hear the oration that was chosen by the faculty. Our orator has chosen a member of the Wake Forest community who knows them well to do their introduction, Rebecca Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Rebecca Johnson, and I've had the pleasure of having Zach Anderson as a student in several of my classes. Over the past few years, I've watched him grow into a thoughtful, passionate, and determined individual, someone who brings both creativity and insight to every discussion, every project, and performance that he takes on. Originally from Eagan, Minnesota, Zach is a marketing communication major with minors in theater and entrepreneurship. a combination that perfectly reflects his dynamic personality and diverse talents. Whether he's crafting a compelling campaign, and or commanding the stage, or brainstorming new ways to tell stories, as he's done recently in Radium Girls. Zach approaches every endeavor with an infectious enthusiasm and a keen eye for storytelling. As for what's next, Zach is exploring opportunities in marketing, theater, and entertainment, fields that align with his natural ability to connect with audiences and create meaningful experiences. While that exact path is still unfolding, one thing is for certain: whatever he chooses to pursue, he will do so with the same passion, dedication, and creativity that has defined his time here. Tonight, he'll be presenting Ephemeral Moments, Eternal Impact, a title that, much like Zach, captures both depth and meaning. I have no doubt his words will leave a lasting impression on you all. So please join me in welcoming Zach Anderson.
Theater is ephemeral. It happens in a moment and then it's gone. A fleeting, fragile magic. That's how it was described to me freshman year in Brooke Davis's Intro to Western Theater class. We were talking about how the excitement of live performance lies in its impermanence. It exists only for those present in the room, and then it becomes a memory. At the time, I thought of it simply as a truth about theater, but over time, I began to see how that same ephemerality defines so many moments here at Wake Forest. Wake has this way of inviting you to embrace the fleeting nature of time, to treat it not as something to fear, but to fill. To me, Wake has been my sandbox, one where we're handed tools and invited to build something extraordinary. The possibilities are endless, and the only real rule is to take full advantage of the moment. And while some people construct perfectly crafted sandcastles, I've never been one to stay neatly inside the box. I'm the person off in the grass, building something wildly ambitious and probably throwing sand everywhere in the process. Some might call it chaos, but I call it creativity. That creativity has come to define me here. After directing the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, my friends coined a phrase that has now become my personal motto. Zach Anderson is not in the business of small. And they weren't wrong. Whether it's in theater, leadership, a group project, or just the way I approach life, I believe in going all in. Not just for the spectacle, although I admit I do love a bit of theatrical flair, but because moments, like theater, are fleeting. And if they're going to disappear, I want them to be unforgettable. I want the audience, the cast, the crew, everyone involved to walk away knowing that they were a part of something bigger than themselves. To create something bold, something meaningful, something that lingers long after the curtain falls. From directing shows to serving as president of Anthony Aston Players, being a tour guide, doing PR for Hit the Bricks, I've had the chance to take on projects that stretched me, challenged me, and gave me real-world experience. But more than that, these moments weren't just about building a resume. They were about finding ways to connect and celebrate, to create moments that linger. Like bubbles filling a stage or confetti bursting at the final bow, it's about making an impact that's impossible to forget. The same sense of connection and celebration that fuels the theater can be found in other corners of Wake Forest too. Even as someone whose Saturdays are often spent painting sets or rehearsing lines, I made sure I was in the stands at every football game. There's something about standing in the student section in my gold and black overalls, surrounded by thousands of voices cheering as one. It's that same kind of magic you feel on opening night, the electricity of a collective experience. And after the game, when the quad is rolled, that magic becomes tangible. The trees covered in white streams of toilet paper, fluttering like confetti, are a reminder that these moments, however fleeting, stay with us long after they've passed. That's the beauty of this place. While some may say it's the Wake bubble, I think it isn't a bubble that shields you from the real world, but it's a place that transforms you, preparing you to thrive outside of it. Wake Forest doesn't just give you a space to learn, it shapes you into someone who can lead boldly and dream ambitiously. The lessons we learn here, how to connect, how to create, how to think critically and fearlessly, they don't stay contained within the quad. They carry forward into everything we do. But the true beauty of Wake is that the lessons don't just show up in the big defining moments. They live in the quiet ones too, in the spaces between all the milestones. Sitting in professors' offices, talking about ideas and dreams, watching people cheer for each other, not just because they have to, but because they genuinely want to see people succeed. Walking across the quad late at night with friends, feeling like the world is full of possibilities. These moments remind me that the magic of Wake Forest doesn't come from one place, but it's in the people, the passion, and in the culture we've built together. And at the heart of these moments is something deeper, something that makes Wake Forest feel like home. It's the kind of place where people aren't just welcomed, they're embraced, where conversations don't just pass the time, but they pull people closer, where laughter isn't just shared, it strengthens bonds. More than anything, I've always believed in the power of community, not just as something that happens, but as something that we create. It's in the way we show up for each other, the space we make for people to feel seen, the little moments that say, you belong here. For me, sometimes that means just making space at my table at Pittsgiving. Other times, it's making sure people know, really know how awesome they are. Because when people feel valued, when they feel like they truly belong, they open up, they dream bigger, they step more fully into themselves. Wake isn't just a collection of individuals, it's a place where people lean in, lift each other up, and create something bigger than themselves. And that's what makes it unforgettable. In many ways, Wake has taught me the beauty of impermanence. The fleeting nature of these 4 years has pushed me to embrace every opportunity, to savor every moment, and to leave this place better than I found it. And yet, just because something is fleeting doesn't mean it disappears entirely. The memories we've made, the lessons we've learned, and the relationships we've built, those are permanent. They live on in the way we carry ourselves, in the work we create, and in the way we show up for others. Wake Forest isn't just the place where I learned to think critically or lead creatively. It's the place where I learned to live fully, to build big, to throw sand, and to embrace the ephemeral magic of a moment, knowing that its impact can last forever. Thank you.
sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. Oh, will I dream where black or white, whatever race to be, will share the bounties of the earth, and everyone is free. I dream a world where no other one shall scorn, where love will bless the earth and peace its paths adorn. I dream a world where all sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. A world I dream where black or white, whatever race to be, will share the bounties of the earth, and everyone is free. Where wretchedness will hang its head, 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 when greed no longer saps the soul, shall blights our day.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andy Klein, and I am the Dean of our law school. What a privilege, as a relative newcomer to Wake Forest, to stand before you in Waite Chapel with an opportunity to offer reflections on Founders Day. I was honored when President Wente asked me to speak and make remarks today, at least until I learned that she wanted me to make remarks on the topics of academic freedom and freedom of speech, right? Nothing like the boss giving you an assignment on something that is uncontroversial, where everybody's going to agree. On the upside, I only have about 10 minutes, so I won't have much time to get myself into trouble. I do want to start by saying that I offer these reflections with great humility. People far more thoughtful than me have grappled with these concepts for decades without reaching anything close to consensus. Indeed, freedom of speech and academic freedom are concepts that are almost always invoked in difficult moments, when opinions clash and when people struggle to navigate conflict. Conflict is hard, and especially so at an institution with a mission of educating people who will live and lead in a democratic society striving to be for humanity. Now, freedom of speech is undoubtedly important to all of that, because in a democratic society, free speech is what allows us to engage in self-governance, in the words of one scholar, by expressing our collective will through the force of public opinion. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution protects that type of participation by preventing the government from making laws that might punish or even chill speech that is at the core of our civic engagement, even when that speech expresses an unpopular opinion or view. Now, for many of us, thinking deeply about free speech for the first time can be exhilarating. That certainly was true for me when I took a course on free speech as a journalism student at the University of Wisconsin back in the 1980s. I was attracted to the concept that the marketplace of ideas should be left to unfettered competition between all speech at all times. But in time, I realized that when it comes to speech, no one really supports anything goes all the time. As Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes famously said, you can't falsely shout fire in a crowded theater, and there are numerous categories of speech that are routinely and appropriately prohibited and punished. There's no right to speak in a way that incites violence. There's no right to speak in a manner that defames others. There's no protection for perjury or child pornography, nor should there be. None of that is essential to engaging in the type of robust public debate that is at the heart of self-governance. So even in a democracy, lines need to be drawn. Freedom of speech is also different from academic freedom, and at least in my opinion, we should be careful not to conflate the two. Perhaps most obviously, universities are not democracies. Universities are places where people pursue knowledge and discovery and then transmit that knowledge through education. Universities discriminate against certain types of speech all the time. Academic freedom doesn't mean that we have to tenure someone who writes that the earth is flat. It doesn't prevent sanctioning a professor who is assigned to teach a class on biology but instead exclusively discusses basketball. It doesn't require us to tolerate the harassment of individuals within our community. Rather, academic freedom allows us to pursue truth and knowledge by challenging conventional wisdom and old assumptions protected from sanction by those who are threatened by that pursuit for reasons of self-interest, fear, or ideology. So in that sense, as others have noted, academic freedom in large part is an instrumental good. It's not an element of human dignity, nor is it at the core of our democratic principles. At some level, though, academic freedom and freedom of speech do intersect. One of the reasons to seek knowledge and transmit it through education is the belief that educated and well-informed citizens are important to preserving society and encouraging progress. So in democracies, one reason that universities have long been valued is because their mission serves the public interest. Now, in this endeavor, institutions can differentiate themselves from others, and great universities can truly distinguish themselves. In my view, that is what we should commit to do on Founders Day. Let's think about how Wake Forest can be a place where we embrace our pursuit of knowledge and truth in a way that is consistent with our motto, with a promise to treat all of those around us with dignity and respect. Let's think about how we can be true to the words of our mission statement, where we assert that since our founding in 1834, Wake Forest has been an institution devoted to providing a quality education to young people interested in using their knowledge and talents to better the world around them. You know, I'm pretty sure that has never been an easy task, but I do believe that today, more than ever, it is important to commit to doing so within the context of a set of shared values. These values include academic tenets familiar to everyone here, ideals relating to the importance of a liberal arts education, developing an appreciation for moral and religious traditions, and utilizing knowledge in the service of others. Our shared values also include the way we treat one another, consciously choosing to be a community where we work harder to build bonds of understanding than to erect barriers of distrust, where we give grace instead of assigning blame, where we look for common ground and not just ways to prevail. At the beginning of my remarks, I noted that I'm still a newcomer to Wake Forest, but one thing I have learned during my time here is that when reflecting on what makes Wake Forest special, you can't go wrong by invoking Ed Wilson. Now, I never had the privilege of meeting Dr. Wilson. I wish I had. As I finished writing the first draft of these remarks, I noticed on my shelf the Summer Alumni magazine with his portrait on the cover. When I opened it, I saw a quote that summed up just about everything I said today, but far more succinctly and far more eloquently. Ed Wilson said that he hoped Wake Forest would continue forever to be what it was when he first saw it more than 80 years ago. His words, a place where reason, imagination, and faith flourish, a place eternally and fearlessly in the pursuit of truth, a place which is open, hospitable, generous, loving, and free. You know, I probably could have started there and saved you all 10 minutes, but I truly appreciate the opportunity to share with you today, and I am very grateful for the privilege of being part of this institution and sharing this special community with all of you. Thank you very much.
Well, first I have a lot of thanks to give. First, I want to thank you, Zach, for sharing your Wake Forest journey with us. I hope we can all take to heart your call for us to live fully, creatively, and in community, and that we're going to seek those opportunities to grasp all the moments, no matter how short and sweet, that make our journeys here so special. I also want to thank our chamber choir. Thank you so very much for inspiring us in so many ways, inspiring us especially in terms of our dreams and our vision for the future. And I want to thank you, Dean Klein, for your wisdom, your humility, and your humor. I don't remember giving you that assignment in exactly that way, but your important call to hold to our academic mission and our shared commitment to humanity and to one another is so very, very important. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce the recipient of the 2025 Wake Forest University Medallion of Merit. Given annually since 1968, the Medallion of Merit is the highest honor bestowed upon an individual by Wake Forest University, given for outstanding achievement and distinguished contribution to the university. This year's recipient is an incredibly inspiring and accomplished leader in his direct contributions to the flourishing of Wake Forest University, as well as the many ways he has enabled the business, entrepreneurship, and philanthropic communities of Winston-Salem, the Triad, and North Carolina to grow and thrive. I am pleased to recognize Donald Eric Flo as the 2025 recipient of the Medallion of Merit. Don Flo, Chairman and CEO of Flo Companies, is an alumnus of the Wake Forest University School of Business, earning his MBA in 1983. His decades of service to Wake Forest University are truly prolific and broad-based. He was a dedicated member and chair of the Business School's Board of Visitors. He was first elected to the Board of Trustees in 2005, and he has continued to serve as a university trustee for 5 terms, including a term as chair of the board for 3 years from 2012 to 2015. As a trustee, Don has been an exemplary partner to the university and to Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, serving in multiple roles, including chair and vice chair of the Medical Center Board and chair of the University Health Sciences Board. Don's been integral to so many initiatives across this period of time. He was especially integral to the Medical Center and Wake Forest University School of Medicine, becoming the academic core of Atrium Health and now Advocate Health, including plans for the new School of Medicine campus in Charlotte. In 2011, Don led the charge in establishing the Winston-Salem Open at Wake Forest University. You can see the wide range of different interests that Don has. This Open is not only the last stop on the tour before the U.S. Open, but is a significant fundraiser for our community sports. Last year's tournament raised $25,000 for local middle school athletics and community tennis programs. From 2012 to 2020, Don chaired the university's Wake Will campaign, our largest philanthropic campaign to date, which raised more than $1 billion. Don's leadership on this campaign made possible many of the key Renolda campus facility projects supported by Wake Will, including the construction of Farrell Hall and the renovation of our residence halls. In 2017, Don was awarded the Wake Forest Distinguished Alumni Award. And while these accolades and service alone would make him a truly worthy recipient of this honor, it is his heart and his humanitarianism, the way he embodies our motto with the very fiber of his being, that truly distinguished Don among the many extraordinary leaders who precede him as medallion recipients. So many of you in this room, myself included, have been deeply affected by Don's generosity of spirit, his intellect, and his abiding kindness. And now finally, I want to take a moment for a special acknowledgement. Don Flo's receipt of this honor results in the only time 2 members of the same family have been independently named medallion recipients, a father and a son. Don's father, Vic Flo, who is here with us today, also received this honor in 2001. This is a testament to the Flo family's enduring love for Wake Forest, and their continued dedication to service and a vision for the good of our community. Before the presentation of the Medallion of Merit, please join me in watching this video honoring Don, who truly embodies the spirit of a Wake Forest founder.
You know how when you're working a puzzle, you're looking for where are the edges, where is this patch of color, where is that patch of color? You've got to have a sort of vision for putting it together, or else you're not going to be a good puzzle worker. Don, he sees the ability to bring together the business school, the athletic department, the med school.
For the last 20 years, Don has been a force at Wake Forest.
Don was exceptional at figuring out how to make the biggest difference with the time he could invest.
Don does not live for himself. Don lives for others, for the common good.
To me, Don Flo is Wake Forest University. I've never met someone with as much business sense who has such deep empathy for every person in our community like Don Flo.
Don is an irrepressible source of energy. He's just got ideas coming out all the time. He is somebody who wants humanity to have a better way of being.
One of the things that I admire the most about him is how his faith informs the way he treats people, the way he approaches problems, the way that he handles situations.
Don is tremendous at finance, and he reads philosophy and theology. And he understands what a university is about.
We were getting ready to get serious about launching a campaign, and I talked to Dr. Hatch, and we thought there couldn't be anybody better to be the campaign chair.
The capital campaign certainly was very necessary for Wake Forest.
The very first project we launched during the Wake Will campaign was Farrell Hall. So Don was like, okay, how is it that we're gonna do this? How many people do we need? And out comes the pencil, and he starts working it out on those note cards. So what's amazing about Farrell Hall is that even in the earliest vision of it, the whole idea was this was going to be a statement about how we wanted our students and faculty and staff to be able to live and work.
The building is incredible in and of itself. It has set a standard for what our vision for the buildings on campus could be.
Just the overall ability to redo all our residence halls.
It was a remarkable campaign that actually positioned Wake Forest in a way that I think we weren't necessarily going to achieve without it.
The $175 million in new facility construction has been completed without long-term capital debt. And that's a testament to the vision and leadership of people like Don Flo.
And then when you look at athletics, I mean, Wake Forest has redone all its athletic facilities.
Well, all you have to do is go on campus and just see where our facilities have come. Don Flo, cares about athletics. He cares about football, but he also cares about the business school and the medical school.
We have been able to become part of the second largest not-for-profit health system in the whole United States. And our medical school, Wake Forest University School of Medicine, will be the intellectual power generating the value add for that humongous health system.
It took me one conversation to realize he's really quite a Renaissance guy. He shocked me when I met him, saying about how he asked questions, his persona. He was really trying to solve a problem. When I came here, he was the one that really participated, looking at the changes, how to make that happen, what we were doing with the university. And it was exciting because we were really integrating more of the academic piece with the hospital piece.
In the partnership with Atrium Health, we were able to have a second campus which broadened the scope of the medical school a tremendous amount and gave us, access into one of the fastest growing cities in North Carolina and the country.
So both in the hospital and the medical school coming together, Don was pivotal in those negotiations. And then also the negotiations with Atrium.
In a lot of ways, what we hope is that the work that we do in building these kinds of large-scale campaigns is transformational, but not just for the university, but for the hundreds and hundreds of students who have the opportunity to be here.
People respect Don, and Don understands people, so cultivating new trustees, setting high goals for Wake Forest.
He listens intently, and when he, as at board meetings, he's always taking notes too. When you watch him, he's writing down, thinking, and really looking at what we're doing and how we're accomplishing things.
And then he stands up and he has a nice summary and overview of what people have said and how he thinks it would go together. He's really focused on, will this work as a thing that comes from our deep values?
When you have a problem, you want to get his opinion and his thought. Don approached Ron at a game and said, hey, we got this opportunity for Winston-Salem. What if we built a tennis complex and hosted an international ATP tennis tournament?
His vision for being able to draw a national community to Winston-Salem was such a powerful component of all that we were thinking about. Because a lot of what he was trying to do is elevate Wake Forest brand nationally.
Things like that happening in Winston-Salem, Don is in the middle of it and is using all of his resources and connections to build support inside the community.
Gears and Guitars is one where you see the diversity of Don's interests really emerge. Live music together with the bike races, and it's an extraordinary collection of people. If you ever go down there, you'll see all walks of life from Winston-Salem.
No one has been more focused on the economic and cultural vitality of Winston-Salem than Don Flo.
It feels a lot like Don single-handedly decided to work with people to really invest in the city and make the city of Winston-Salem great.
He wants this region of the country to be living up to its promise.
Don has supported so many things that simply bring people together.
He gives us the ability to see how the pieces need to come together.
Everything he does, he thinks of how can it have the greatest impact on the most people.
He's always in the picture. He's always sitting at the table. He's always in someone's ear. And he always has that smile on his face. You really deserve it, Don, and you're going to say you don't, but you really deserve it.
Don, thank you so much for your dedication to Wake Forest and to Winston-Salem. I think you have made our university so much greater.
Don and Robin, it has been such a privilege to know you as friends and colleagues and to work on big, important projects together.
Don Flo's leadership behind the scenes and his support of Wake Forest leaders has been transformative to this university.
It was an extraordinary period of my life and an opportunity to be able to learn from somebody who is so extraordinarily gifted, accomplished, and principled. And I always will cherish that.
You've made this a much better place for a lot of people, and I don't know if enough thank yous will ever do it justice.
I'm so sorry that I can't be here in person to give you a big hug and tell you how proud I am of you and all the work that you've done and what a special person you are to all of us.
We've had such a good time working together. We love you. And today we'd just like to say thanks.
Hello, I'm Vic Flo. I've been around here about 40 years. I served several terms as trustee. Wake Forest has been a big part of my life and a big part of my family's life. I'm proud of the person that he has become. He had every opportunity not to grow up as well as he did. And he was never a problem to us, always a bright light. And we've always been very proud of his accomplishments.
On this 20th day of February, 2025, Wake Forest University confers its highest honor, the Medallion of Merit, upon Donald Eric Flo. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Medallion of Merit recipient, Don Flo.
That far exceeded anything I could have imagined. Thank you. So it was 1960, when I first stepped through the doors of Wake Chapel to go to kindergarten here on the campus. And since then, Wake Forest has been more than a place for me. It's a home. It's a home filled with the people who have shaped my life. And my story at Wake Forest is really a story of relationships. Everything about Wake Forest, everything has been a great gift and a place of great grace in my life. As a young boy, I came to Dr. Holliger and Coach Ellison's all-sports camp at Wake Forest. And they ignited a passion and love for sports that's never been quenched. I went to my first basketball camp at Wake Forest, and my counselor was a young graduate named Billy Packer. And we remained friends and in contact for 60 years until he passed. The athletic director, the former athletic director, Gene Hooks, used to leave the back door open to Reynolds Gym on Saturday mornings so a little group of us could come down and play basketball. The track coach at Wake Forest let me work out with them when I was in junior high school. And the librarian at Z. Smith Reynolds gave me a pass so that I could study there when I was in high school. I literally grew up on the Wake Forest campus. When I came back to graduate school at Babcock, it was like a homecoming. I loved business school at Wake Forest. I really, actually loved going to business school. It was a place filled with amazing people. In 2 years of business school, 4 trustees of Wake Forest came through out of those classes we were in. I experienced what it meant to be in a culture that's high caring and high challenge, filled with ambitious people who wanted to live lives that mattered. And the relationships I developed with faculty and fellow students during my time at Babcock have shaped much of my life. And when I finished business school in 1983, I got a call from a young development officer at Wake named Bob Baker, who asked me if I could meet with him. At breakfast at that very fancy place, K&W Cafeteria, he explained to me how he had a plan, a wonderful plan for my life. And it began with me joining the President's Club by making a commitment of $10,000 payable over 10 years. It was the first of many meetings with Bob where he always had a new plan for my life that always seemed to involve a few more zeros than the first plan or the previous plan did. But I loved Bob's passion for Wake Forest, and I was grateful for his invitation to invest in the future of Wake Forest. In 1987, I had this idea to start a professional tennis tournament at Wake Forest. And thankfully, President Tom Hearn loved tennis. And he said, yes. Well, for 13 years, we held the Flow Motors Invitational at Wake Forest. And over the years, Pete Sampras, Michael Chang, Pat Cash, Andy Roddick, all Grand Slam winners, all played on the Wake Forest campus. But perhaps most importantly, a young freshman, future trustee Mitch Shaw, warmed up this long-haired kid named Andre Agassi on the Wake Forest varsity courts when Agassi was here playing in the tournament. So in 2010, I asked Ron Wellman if I could meet with him in his box at halftime at a football game. We went out to his balcony where I pointed to the parking lot by the indoor tennis facility and said, "What do you think about building a tennis stadium there for Wake Forest and hosting a professional tennis tournament? Particularly," here's the particular part, "if I have all of the money raised for it." He asked what year we thought we would do this, and I said, "This year." At which point he had a certain incredulous look on his face. Of course, any athletic director who hears that all of the money is already raised is always open to listening. After Ron and President Hatch talked about it, they gave us the green light, and at midnight, before the first match of the Winston-Salem Open, we finished construction at the stadium. Today, the Winston-Salem Open at Wake Forest, which is how it's known worldwide, is broadcast to 140 countries, and over 600 volunteers come together in our community to make the tournament happen. It all happened because Ron Wellman and Nathan Hatch said yes. I had the gift of being on the business school when Steve Reineman led the effort to build the new business school. This is when I first had the chance to see the magic of Melissa Combs weave together relationships from all over the planet. I'll never forget, in the middle of the recession, the worst recession of my life, Mike Farrell saying that now is the time to make a statement that we believe in the future of Wake Forest University. And then he and Mary made the gift of $10 million, which enabled us to build the magnificent Farrell Hall. One of the most wonderful experiences of my life was working on the capital campaign with Mark Peterson and Nathan Hatch. It was wonderful because I had the opportunity to hear so many stories from other people about how Wake Forest had shaped their lives and how eager they were to invest in its future. They were not just grateful for the past, they believed in the future of Wake Forest, and they wanted us to be aspirational for that future. Well, when President Hatch called me and asked if I would serve on the Wake Forest Baptist Medical School Board, I could not have imagined the adventure we would take over the next 15 years. From merging Wake Forest Health Sciences with Baptist Hospital to create an integrated medical center, to building Innovation Quarter and a new medical school there, to merging with Atrium and building a second school of medicine in Charlotte, and now merging with Advocate and becoming the academic core of a $40 billion enterprise, the second largest not-for-profit hospital system in the United States. Remarkable. Through all of this, the wise counsel of Reed Morgan was at the center of every step we took. I will be forever grateful for the many phone calls and breakfasts that Reed took with me as we discussed the path forward. I also want to thank Dr. John McConnell, who took the risk to come to us and help us start the journey, and to Dr. Julie Freislag for her extraordinary and exemplary leadership that has enabled us to realize more than we could have ever imagined. I worked closely with Nathan Hatch during his term as president. I learned an enormous amount from him. What it means to hold together that which is often pulled apart. What it means to be traditional and innovative. What it means to be disciplined and creative. What it means to have deep convictions, but to always be open to learning. What it looks like to be both humble and confident, and the importance of expressing confidence in people of high capacity and high character and challenging them to be aspirational. And most importantly, I'm deeply grateful for his friendship. I had the opportunity to serve on the search committee that selected Susan Wente as president of Wake Forest. And throughout the process, where different constituents of the university were represented, I was reminded of how wonderful and diverse the people here are at Wake Forest. It's been my privilege to work with Susan since she arrived as president. During my time as trustee, I've often been reminded of the profound responsibility of what it means to be entrusted with an institution like Wake Forest. I've been deeply grateful for the leadership provided by so many outstanding chairs while I served as a trustee. Wayne Smith, Jim Williams, Donna Boswell, Gerald Roach, Matt King, and Jean Whitman Bobbitt. These are an amazing group of leaders who gave of their time to help preserve and renew the Wake Forest community. Many of the people who so kindly and generously participated on this video, and many of the people in this room, represent a lifetime of friendships from broad walks of life. We've shared a lot of life together, and you've been an important part of my life, and I am grateful. Your influence has shaped the very direction of my life. My mom and dad are here today, and I'd like to recognize them. I was born into a family filled with love. My mom was and is abounding in patience and is an endless source of encouragement, always filled with kindness and thoughtfulness. I've received hundreds of letters from her over my lifetime, of which many came at very important times in my life, always offering the right word at the right time. My dad, who as mentioned received this recognition in 2001, was and is an incredible example to me of the courage and the commitment required to risk everything to achieve something you deeply care about and believe in. He's played many roles in my life: my teacher, my mentor, my partner, my friend, and occasionally my friendly competitor. My sister Marie is here with her husband Guy. She's always encouraged this over-the-top brother, who I'm certain was a bit exhausting to live with every day. And I'm forever grateful for their encouragement and their support. And lastly, I want to try to do the impossible. I want to try to thank my wife, Robin. She's my best friend, my greatest source of encouragement, who knows me better than I know myself, the one who continually reminds me to pay attention to the wonder and the beauty of this world, and who fills every day with an extraordinary enthusiasm and zeal for life. I'll tell folks that my life is really summarized in a simple formula. Life is a profound gift, lived under grace, and the only appropriate response is gratitude, expressed through generosity. Gift, grace, gratitude, generosity. Thank you, Wake Forest, for not just helping me understand this, but also for giving me a community in which to try to make this a reality. Someday, when I'm no longer an active trustee, I will have very fond and wonderful memories of my time as a trustee. But I will cherish, to the day I die, the friends I've made because of and through Wake Forest. Thank you for your friendship and for so enriching my life. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Don, and to your family as well. Now we have an extra special presentation, which you may have noted in the program. It's now my privilege and honor to offer a tribute to two more outstanding alumni of Wake Forest, whose life stories and many accomplishments represent fully the potential each of us has to found and to be a founder of this great university. I am pleased to announce that based on our ongoing university honorific naming process and the work of an ad hoc committee, the Board of Trustees has endorsed my recommendation to honor two exemplary Wake Forest University alumni and professors, longtime friends and leaders in this community, and examples of the very best of what it means to be a founder and a Demon Deacon, Professor Beth Hopkins and the late Dr. Larry Hopkins, by renaming South Residence Hall Hopkins Hall. Professor Beth Hopkins graduated cum laude from Wake Forest in 1973 as one of the first 2 Black women residential students in university history. After earning a JD degree from the Marshall Wythe School of Law at William & Mary in 1977, Beth has had an incredible career of service, leadership, and advocacy in the legal and educational fields. She served as a federal prosecutor in Shreveport, as a civil rights attorney in Richmond. She worked on the team of attorneys in the landmark Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court case that declared racial segregation in public school systems as unconstitutional. Beth was also Virginia's Assistant Attorney General and Assistant U.S. Attorney from 1978 to 1984. She returned to Wake Forest and has held a variety of leadership and teaching roles. Most recently, she has served as a university trustee, now life trustee, and prior to her retirement, she was the inaugural director of the Smith Anderson Center for Community Outreach at Wake Forest Law. She has done extensive advocacy work for the United States Tennis Association, expanding access to the sport she fell in love with at Wake. In 2017, she was named a USTA Champion of Equality. And in 2023, Beth received the Billie Jean King Award for her work to increase representation in tennis. Professor Hopkins is well known throughout the Wake Forest community as an exceptional teacher, mentor, and advocate. And in 2023, she received Wake Forest Distinguished Alumni Award. Dr. Larry Hopkins earned his bachelor's degree from Wake Forest in 1972 and his medical degree from Wake Forest Medical School in 1977. Dr. Hopkins was a physician and assistant professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Wake Forest School of Medicine. He was a leader in improving access and outcome for women's and neonatal health in Winston-Salem, co-directing the Women's Health Center, serving on today's Women's Wellness Center's Health Advisory Council, and on the Women's Health Center Advisory Board. He was also an exceptional athlete at Wake Forest and was inducted into the Wake Forest Athletics Hall of Fame for his accomplishments as a running back on the Demon Deacons football team. In 2020, Dr. Hopkins received the university's highest honor, the Medallion of Merit. And yes, Larry and Beth met when they were students at Wake Forest. Beth, Wake Forest is forever grateful to you and to Larry for the decades of commitment, bravery, and love you have shown this community. You have made and continue to make us better. And now, please turn your attention to the screen as we enjoy a video tribute to Beth and Larry Hopkins.
The mark of any man is what you leave behind, and we are all the better and the richer for Larry.
He represents Wake Forest in all the best ways.
Something that my dad actually said was being able to give back to people makes life worth living.
Whatever I can do to help others makes life worth living.
To know Beth is to respect Beth.
Beth is amazing. She's loved, she's well respected, and I think she exemplifies resiliency.
Someone who is always ready to get the job done, whatever that job may be.
They're both strong-willed people, extremely determined, extremely intelligent, of course, and just people who really want to help others. And I think they're just two people who really stand out as humans.
I think they were the perfect pair for working on opportunity, access, equity, inclusion, justice.
instilling in people you have to work together. You have to find a way to kind of hold hands and say, how can we be better for ourselves, but then for our community as a whole.
More than anything, they wanted all of our students to feel like they belonged at Wake. More than anything, they wanted our students to love Wake as much as they loved Wake. And they loved Wake unconditionally.
We tried to set examples for the young folks who followed us, really.
I always look forward to giving somebody a better chance, because I always believed that there's an open door somewhere, and all you have to do is tug on the knob a little bit.
I'd now like to invite Beth to the front for the presentation of a specially commissioned art piece. The artwork was created by our university's creative director, Hayes Henderson, whose work has also depicted other Wake Forest luminaries like Maya Angelou, Ed Wilson, Mike Farrell, and Porter Byram. And as you will see, the representation of Beth and Larry Hopkins aims to capture their love, vibrancy, and energy for one another, as well as their shared commitment to Wake Forest.
The legends of Founders Day are many, but Founders Day also belongs to those infinite souls, past, present, and those yet to come, who continuously shape and reshape this institution. Hannah Arendt presciently reminds us of this in her statement, "The art of foundation lies in the overcoming of the perplexities inherent in every beginning. Every foundation is also an act of refoundation, as every new endeavor seeks to be an improved restatement of the old. In our refoundings, we open wide the doors of community. For community, as Howard Thurman prophetically teaches us, cannot feed for long on itself. It can only flourish where always the boundaries give way to the coming of others from beyond them. Thus, the call in this moment, the call of this Founders Day, is to embrace an act of radical freedom. Such a radical freedom underwrites academic freedom, but it also underwrites an untimely freedom appropriate to our motto, Pro Humanitate. an untimely freedom that redefines reality, an untimely freedom that redefines who we are, an untimely freedom that seeks justice, not power, and that pursues peace and not just prestige. An untimely freedom that invites all who seek to study, to speak, to stand, and to struggle for all of humanity to come through its doors and pursue and embody an untimely freedom. In his final speech on April 3rd, 1968, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. prophetically declared, "But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of the press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest for what is right." He then challenged the nation. "All we say to America is, be true to what you said on paper." Wake Forest University, let us be true to our motto, Pro Humanitate, and live out an untimely freedom in all that we do, all that we say, and all that we hope, so that on this Founders Day, those who are here and those who come after us will say, on that day, these Wake Foresters transformed freedom from mere words written on a page to a living, breathing force that transformed the world. And may this be so now and into the long future. Join us as we sing our alma mater, and then please remain standing as President Wente and the assembled dignitaries lead us out of this chapel across Hearn Plaza to a reception in the green room in Renolda Hall.